Bonjour and welcome to another episode of the Paris Wedding Show. Today I have the pleasure of hosting a woman whose artistry and event planning transcends borders, whose passion has been nurtured since childhood and whose legacy is built upon a tapestry of cherished memories from events all across the globe. She's the creative genius behind Kesh Events, a name synonymous with luxury, elegance, and unparalleled event experiences. She's inspired by her mother's dedication to party planning, design, and hospitality. She began her journey into the world of event design and has since crafted bespoke celebrations for discerning clients worldwide. Let's dive deep into the world of luxury event planning with Akeshi from Kesh Events on the Paris Wedding Show. Akeshi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here on the show. It's been a long time that I wanted you as a guest. And thanks again, as always, for
My
taking the
pleasure.
time.
Yes.
So let's start with a thought that I have about you and your business. I was thinking about this absolute amazing event that you and your team produced recently this summer, where I had I've been very lucky to be a vendor with you. So it was located in Chateau Villette in near Paris, for those who know. Could you tell me, first of all, your secret to create this kind of events and make it so special?
I honestly, I look at all our events as collaboration. It's not a one-man show, right? It takes a village. So I think the result of a great celebration is really about the team that you pull around you, like your internal team and all the creative partners that you work with. And of course, the clients are always our inspiration and our muse. But I would say truly just the support around helps the day. But again, we when we start with events, we start with our clients. So it's always starts with our clients. And I think sometimes people lose track of what the celebration is about, right? But if you go back to the core, which is the couple, if it's a wedding, and then you just work from there, right? So there's meaning and it's meaningful and it's special. Um, and it's something that's memorable. So I would say like the clients and of course your collaborative partners for sure.
I really like your approach, and I think it's as every business who are business people who are successful. It always seems very simple when you say it. Like we start with the client, and then we just create whatever they have in mind or create their vision. I know it's hard. I know for a fact that I've been in this industry enough for to realize that it takes a lot of work. So this is where you start. You go, people reach out to you, and they have a meeting couples with you. And so, what is your process? Can you start with that?
Yeah. So a lot of times our clients will reach out and then we'll set up a call or a meeting in person. And for me, that's the most important call
Right.
because I always share that, we want to get to know them and see if we're a good fit for them and vice versa. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's when, for us, we're listening, we're picking up little things, we're taking notes, we're saying, I don't know, or this is going to be good. Right. So for me, that's the most important meeting. And it's something that we definitely want to take very seriously because you hear things and it's a great place for me also for education because a lot of couples don't understand how planning actually works or producing an event because they've never had a wedding before. So I take that as an opportunity to connect and also educate and walk them through my process because everybody's different. I truly don't know how everybody works. So I go through my process and how we work and what to expect. And it's also a chance for me to show them because these are total strangers, by the way, right? At that moment.
Absolutely.
So I take that chance to show them my that I'm the right fit by showing my expertise. And I always say, like, give your best stuff for free. Right. People
Right.
tend to hold back and say, I don't want to share all this stuff in the beginning. I'm like, but why not?
Absolutely.
Right.
I
If you get
agree.
booked, fine. And if you don't, it doesn't hurt you. Someone left with a good impression about you. So for everyone listening, that's a good place to really shine and showcase your uniqueness, your expertise, and your level of confidence with two total strangers and say, hey, trust me with the one of the biggest events of your life. So I love consultations. I take them and I love doing them. It just helps me connect with people. It's usually about an hour, and then we go through if there's a follow-up call needed, or we'll send a proposal. So it's all customized, it's completely based on that conversation. And then, fingers crossed, they say, let's move forward. Then we go to contract, then the fun begins.
And the fun begins. Can you walk before you walk me through the fun? Could we just go back and give people and the audience a bit more of context about you? You're from the US. Where are you located exactly? And then how did you first become interested in event planning?
Yeah, my story. Okay. So it's kind of interesting. Usually when people ask me where I'm from, I pause for a second because I'm like, I don't know. So here's my background.
Right.
I've been
Go
in
ahead.
Chicago for 20 something years. I've lost track now, right? But I was born in the US, but I didn't grow up in the US. I grew up in
Okay.
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
So, yeah, my parents went to MSU.
Hmm.
They moved when I was 3 to Nigeria. So I spent high school I was in Nigeria up until high school. So I was about 19, I think, lost track again.
Okay.
But I didn't spend my childhood in in America.
Okay.
And then I moved after high school and spent college in Chicago. My sister was already here, so I just kind of followed her. And I was like, of all the places in the world, you chose Chicago. It's a great city, but I arrived in January and it was a snowstorm and I was miserable.
Oh my God. Yeah. Very
Um,
different.
but I've been in Chicago ever since. So where I'm from is a little bit tricky, but I would say I'm Nigerian, US citizen, I have dual citizenship. But I'm based in Chicago, so whatever that means to anyone.
It is actually very special. How do you think it helped you and to have this very different cultural background for your work and for your business?
Oh, I appreciate it so much. For me, I think it just opened up a lot of things. Growing up in Nigeria is very different from growing up here. And it's just allowed me to see things and people with a different eye, a more open eye. And one of the things I love about my story is, it's unique because I own where I'm from. I appreciate it. I love it. Honestly, I'm who I am because of my background. So it's a very big part of my identity and myself as an entrepreneur.
it, I also share a double culture. I'm from North Africa from my dad,
Ah,
Algeria, and my mom is French, so I can understand how it feels to
love
have this
that.
dual connection with culture and people, and just what you say, it resonates a lot. So
Yeah.
I can appreciate that too. So what started this? You were in Chicago in high school, you told me, and then what was the sparkle?
So in college, I told myself well, ever since I was a kid, I said I wanted to be a medical doctor. If you asked
Right.
me when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a medical doctor. And then when I was in college here, I was like, you know what? I think I want to do psychology. So I went to school for psychology, which, I always joke that it's the best degree to have in this business because, boy, you need it. We're in the
Absolutely.
business of people every
Yeah.
day, and my lessons as much as I can remember, come in handy. So eventually shifted. I wanted to be a therapist, but that was also not the case. But I truly grew up around celebrations and entertaining as a kid. So my mom plays a huge, huge, huge part of my story and how I fell in love with the art of celebrating and hosting and entertaining. So just to give you a quick background, as a kid, my mom owned so many businesses, hotels, catering. She used to design for weddings. We used to sew. She had there was true multi hyphenate, but she was a professor.
Right.
Um, so I just being her favorite child,
Uh-huh.
my siblings love that. I just followed her everywhere and I just picked up on little things. I learned how to cook I was cooking at 8. I was sewing at 8. I used to sew my own clothes.
Wow.
I used to yeah, if she was making curtains, I was holding the pins, I was part of her process. So it just naturally came to me, and a lot of creativity I truly just absorbed from my mom, and then I've just made it my own. She would joke and say, like, "You learned from me, but you've built your own unique style from it," right? But truly, that was my background, and when I go back and think about it, my journey started when I was a kid, as young as 8. Um, and I know how to do a lot of things. I was creative as a kid. I was also bad because when you're creative, you're bored as a kid, and I used to
Absolutely.
just get into so much trouble. Like, they used to hide screwdrivers, and because
Wow.
I would unscrew things, and I would get into so much trouble, and she's like, "You know what? Let's go put you to work and go get creative." And I would sit with her tailors, and I'd watch them sew, and I learned how to sew that way. So that was truly my background as young as I can remember, and then just bringing that influence and making it my own, figuring out what celebrations mean to me and how I can translate that to my clients kind of followed me. So my mom used to joke and tell me like, why don't you just start planning? And, I know you want to be a doctor and be a psychologist, but this is your calling. I was like, I don't know. And eventually I found
Eventually.
my way. My wedding truly, um, 12 years ago, almost 12 years ago was my true learning experience into the industry. I always joke and said I made every mistake possible, believe me, but
Right.
it was my wedding, so I forgive myself. But that was my eye opener into this world. And I was like, oh, that was crazy, but I like it.
So what happened? I think this is very interesting. So you planned your own wedding, right?
I planned
12
my own
years
wedding
ago.
like a psycho. Yes, I did. And
Like every,
then
yeah,
so let
yeah.
me tell you also, because I knew
Go
how to
ahead.
cook, I knew how to bake, I knew how to sew, I knew how to design. I couldn't really find where to start. So I actually started my first company was Kesh Catering and Events. So it was a
Okay.
catering company. I did one wedding and I was like, that's not happening again outside of mine. So not only did I plan and design my wedding, I also did the food through my chef and like my catering company. I
Wow.
it was a lot.
I imagine.
The food is delicious. I would say that because flavor is a big part of my experience and what I bring to the world. However, from the planning side, I didn't know a lot about
Details.
the details. Like, for example, just I'm gonna tell on myself. I sent, the invitation process. I was like, this is cool. I put little crystals on them and I was gluing things and I mailed it out and I put one stamp on it.
Wow.
So all the guests, well, most of the guests got their invitation, but they had to pay the post office 49 cents to get it. So everyone got an invoice.
Oh my God. Big news.
Everyone got an invoice. And I was like, why are you guys getting a bill? And they're like, you have to weigh the invites first. So lesson number one out of like, I don't know, 2000. My cocktail hour
Absolutely.
was 2 hours long. It was fun for the guests because we had the best liquor, the best entertainment. They did not mind at all. But I learned a lot about timeline, organization, flow,
Flow.
the guest experience and what to do. Like, do not plan your own wedding. Number
Do not.
one,
Yeah.
I was so skinny. I lost so much weight, and it wasn't because I was working out. It's because I was so stressed out. The cake was delicious. I remember that. But I was too concerned with details. I was seeing things that didn't look right. And my husband kept tapping me like, "Just let
It's
go and have
okay.
fun." I'm like, "Let go." I'm like,
I
"That's inside
can't.
out, and I can see a gap here." And so I didn't
You
have
seems
fun.
like you learned a lot.
I learned a lot, and I was like, "Oh, here's what not to do for your client if you choose to get into this business." So as painful as it was at that time, I appreciate that journey and the fact that it was my wedding, not someone
Absolutely.
else's. Um, But I learned a lot about what it really takes on the bride side, on the wedding party side, and just the overall. So now, delegation, hiring the right people, don't plan your own wedding,
I think
all
it
the things.
works to, I don't know if you agree with that. I'm sure you do actually, but like it's even better to think about what not to do rather than what to do. You
Yeah,
end up like not trying to be very smart, but try to consistently not being stupid. Helps a lot to when you do some kind of to do list.
for
And
sure.
I agree, it takes a lot of work and time and energy to focus on all the details and what not to do. And people have sometimes a bit of a confusion. They think, why should I hire somebody to plan my wedding when I can do it
Mhm.
myself?
Mm.
Of course you can, but do you want to? You know,
Yeah,
like having all these emails with the vendors and the questions that you never think you would answer, you have to do to answer now. all the allergies for the catering, all the plumbing. This is just one out of thousands of details that you already know. And
Hmm.
I think it helps to have someone like you to create a value, but also to have a vision. Talking about vision, when I show up to this event, this particular event, I was absolutely amazed by the design that you created with the arrival of the guests, with all the violinists and the music. It was like, I'm doing a lot of weddings every year, but this one was particular. It was, the castle was amazing, and there was like 4 or 6 violinists just playing around with their violins and instruments. It was beautiful. How do you create that? Because it was the bride's view, or did you propose that? Can you give me
So
a
yeah, a lot of times we'll present ideas to clients, and like based on, I look at where, I look at who, I look at it's all about the experience. And I think that kind of being inspired by the clients, and everyone knows me, I always have to have a grand entrance. To me, first impression is the best impression. So the first thing you see, touch, hear, it starts, just kind of creates that magic throughout the day. So try not to miss a chance to make a good impression, a grand impression as soon as you walk in. So for me, I'm like, as guests come in, I need something, right? Whether it's music, decor, entertainment, for it's like that wow factor. And you can't go wrong after that. So I was like, okay, we definitely need music. As soon as, guests had to walk down from the gate, the cars couldn't drive in to the chateau. I'm like, as they walk in, they need champagne and welcome drinks, or water for some people that are not drinking. But I'm like, also what they hear, and it's not just what you're hearing. I mean, we had like the amplifier, felt like a concert, and they were
absolutely?
elevated, and we chose the dresses for them. And for me, all those little components, as small as they may be when you're talking about it, make a big impact. So for me, it's all about the experience. Everything is should be an experience. Every bite, every sound, every touch, the 5 senses are my focus. So it's like when you think of an idea, like, "Okay, this is great, but how do we make it bigger? How do we make it grander?" Like, okay,
Yeah.
and the challenge is when you do it once, you have a concept for the next one, you have to find another unique way to do it, and that's where your creativity comes in. Sometimes I just have to step back and think about, almost like visualize, like, what do I want? I will literally close my eyes and think about what I want people to feel when they walk in,
Wow.
and what I want them to leave with.
Do you
And
take some
those
time?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry
I
to
need time.
interrupt. Do you take some
Absolutely.
time on your own, like
Yeah,
thinking on your own
yeah,
to create your vision?
yes. And also, I
Wow.
rely very heavily on my collaborators. My creative partners are a huge part of my process, because I don't know everything, right? I may be inspired by an idea, but like, for example, an artist, a musician, that is their field, that's their expertise. So I may come up with an idea, and I'll say, "What do you think?" And you're like, "You know what? I have a better idea."
Mm.
And they give me, something grander, or they dream up something they've never done. Or like, "We've never done this, but," you know, and they'll share. I remember it was jazz around midnight, and they shared like, "Okay, let's choose the fabric for the stands." And we had to choose fabric based on like the environment. And so it's a collaborative effort. And I think when people work together and show the people that you work with that I rely on your expertise and I trust it, you get the best results. So for me, that's important. I never make decisions by myself. It involves the client, but also the collaborators around me, right? So from catering to music to decor, we had a florist, also from Paris. And so we put the design together and like passed it on. So it helps to work together, and better ideas come when you share, and you
Yeah.
also let the person know, like, I appreciate your expertise. So let's do this together.
This is absolutely, I absolutely agree with this philosophy. I think that as a vendor, when you're working with a planner or an event designer, I think when they let you breathe and do your
Mm,
own way, this is where people flourish the most. So,
hmm.
and gives the best of themselves, because you don't
Absolutely.
want to
I
be
agree.
managed by someone when you're a vendor. You just want to make the couple happy. This is what you want, and this is what you need to do. So when you have someone who understands that, and doesn't have the ego or the vision or whatever you call it, to say this is all on me, just like you said.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
this is the key for me. I'm not very surprised that you have this philosophy.
But that's
So
also no fun to do it by yourself. Like I
yeah, yeah,
love my creative partners, they're my family, and I want them to feel loved and appreciated. And I say this to my team and when I coach, I say every single person is important. I don't care what you're doing. Even if you're just doesn't matter if you're dropping off the cake or you're writing a name on one place card, you're just as
absolutely.
important in everybody. I don't care. So there's no, oh, this is my event. I'm the
Oh yeah,
producer. Nobody wants to be barked at.
absolutely.
And you want to feel like you're valued. And that is my mission is to make sure my team also, that's a culture in my company that everybody feels loved. Like we'll bug you, like, how are you? And we'll chat with you. Like you're going to talk to me.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
want you to feel comfortable. And I think sometimes people are taken aback, like, you guys are nice. I'm like, yes, we are. So come on, let's get in there. And the result, I would say that the result, the goal is not, it's not about me, it's not about them, it's about the outcome and the celebration and the clients.
The clients, yeah,
That's the goal. There's no ego, it doesn't get you anything. And I think just human to human interaction and compassion and treating people the way you want to be treated is
hundred
important. Doesn't matter
percent.
if I worked in a wedding for a year. You still have to respect everyone and make them feel valued. And I think that's a core.
Definitely
Um,
the key. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So, Kesh Events. This is the name of your business. So you're known and famous for delivering unparalleled luxury in the wedding planning and event design. So, how do you define that's like personal luxury in the context of event planning? So, how has this
Right?
definition evolved over the years for you?
Oh boy. Okay, I'll speak for myself because I feel like luxury is used so much and sometimes misused. Luxury, it's not, for me, it's not about how much you spend. It's not about how many celebrations you have in one weekend. It's about the experience you're creating. Right. So I'm in the business of storytelling. That's it.
Mm,
Whether I'm telling a love story or a birth story, um, that I just want to tell stories through everything. And that's my goal. So that's why I said it starts with the client. They're my muse, and that's my storyline, right? My foundation. I listen, I take my notes, and I go back and like, okay, let's create. Based on that story, I'm thinking about where as they're talking, I can visualize the best location for them. I already have an idea of who the photographer I think would be a good fit for them. So I'm building in my head as I'm listening. Um, but luxury is, I think if I were to narrow it down, it's just down to the experience you create. You can have a luxurious event for 10 people, two
yeah,
people, 300 people. Obviously, money helps,
of course.
right? Because my crazy ideas need money to go with it sometimes. But then you can still get creative with what you have. And it's just how you twist it, it's where you position it. I can have a quartet, but I can use them in the beginning and maybe they move to the ceremony, right? If I can have multiple. So it's not about just wasting money and throwing money everywhere
Yeah,
and just being lavish. It's about down to the experience and my biggest thing, and that's what I'm kind of known for is my attention to detail. It is just I dream of it. I literally wake up and sweating. I'm like, oh my god, I had a dream. Like the candles were not light, and people are like, you need to calm down. And everything is fine. Like I see things, straight lines, wrinkled linen, like things that haunt me at night, or things like
I
that.
understand that.
And sometimes simplicity is as luxurious as being loud. And I think everybody's allowed whatever version that fits them, right? So luxury is not, it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be simple. It's whatever fits your vibe and your style and your event. But the attention to detail has to be there. People need to see like, okay, this was well thought out. This bar is not just a bar. Like these napkins, like, ooh, the velvet, right? The stationery, these are, again, the five senses are important. And if you can sit and say, how can I create, touch, feel, sound, taste, and bring it all together and it makes sense cohesively as a story, I think you build a luxurious event. So attention to detail, obviously listening to your client, and just I would just say sticking to your thing. Not one thing is I try my best. It's hard because we're in a world of comparison, perfection, and social media doesn't help. Is to try to just stick with what I know.
Right.
Right? We're not everybody's good at everything. So
Absolutely.
I know my strengths and I build on that. And the things I do not know, I leave it alone or I'll outsource it or I'll pass it on to someone on my team that's good for it. But the things that I know how to do, I own it. I'm unapologetically. My coffee
Hmm.
hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I hone in on that. So that becomes my signature and I just stick with what I know. I don't promise what I'm not familiar with. And I enjoy it too. So it brings out the best in me when I'm enjoying my work and I want to do the best for the client. So all of these little things plug in and then you get like the final, experience or
The final
celebration
touch.
that you see. But it's a lot of moving parts, but again, these are my things I just try to focus on. What am I good at? How can I translate that and make that what experience do I want to create? What details are a must? Like in all our celebrations, you see details because details to me are make the biggest impact no matter how small. Um, and just pushing yourself to not getting too comfortable where you're just repeating the same thing over and
Yes.
over again. So as a creative, it's like you have to keep tapping into like, hey, that was fun. So what's next? And how can we do it differently? And making being a little bit uncomfortable, but not leaving your territory of what you know.
That's actually a good transition because my next question was about you emphasizing the importance of exclusivity. You
Mhm.
accept only a limited number of events each year. How do you
Definitely.
ensure that each event remains unique and personalized while on the other hand you manage the growing demand for your business?
Yeah, no. So I made that decision a few years ago because as you evolve and as you grow, I always joke, I'm like, there's no pride in saying I do 50 weddings a year. I'm like, how in the world did
My
we
God.
do it back then? Right. So as you grow and as you get better, the demand is higher, the requirement from your client, like, and as you charge, you grow, you charge more,
Of
you get
course.
better weddings, you get bigger budgets, you start to understand that it requires your time, attention, and creativity. And when
Mhm.
you block your creativity with just back to back to back, it's almost impossible to deliver the same unique experience that you can create. And I believe in customization. I believe in unique experiences. And I know for a fact that I cannot do it by just piling up weddings. Like at some point, I'm just going to be like, just put it on the bar. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Just whatever centerpieces is great because there's no time to think. And I have to think. And
Absolutely.
also, I have to enjoy what I'm doing. And I understand the impact what we do has on our physical health and our mental health. And in order for me to enjoy what we do, um, I have to take time and I want to be excited about the next one. So I try not to pile things up and I want to give my absolute best to my clients.
So it's mostly the very famous line about quality over quantity
100%.
applied to luxury.
Absolutely.
There's the mathematics of Kesh Events. So talking about the future, what's next for you for Kesh Events? Are there
Oh
any
my
upcoming
goodness.
projects or initiative that you're particularly excited about?
Anyone that knows me is probably laughing right now, like she has something. I'm a dreamer. I'm always dabbling into things. I have my magazine and we have our holiday, but holiday issue launching soon. So I still do that. I have our blog with Art of Celebrating. We'll launch a subscription for that soon.
Oh, nice.
My goal is to just help people celebrate more elegantly, doesn't have to be a wedding. Beyond your wedding, um, celebrate everything and do it with style. So that's my goal. Whatever that is, in the future, whether it's products, subscriptions, I don't know. So as
It's
long as
coming,
I'm having fun,
right?
more destinations, more dreamy weddings.
Yeah, please come back to France as soon as possible.
Oh yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So beautiful.
That was so
The
nice to
best champagne. I don't know if I can say
yeah,
that.
France is obviously champagne. So thank you again for taking the time to share our time zones. I'm in Paris, you're in Chicago, so
Yeah.
I know it's early in Chicago right now. So thanks again for being here. If you want to finish with some words, any advice, recommendation for the brides listening or the grooms? I know that brides listen more. So if you have something to say, feel free.
Final thoughts for brides or couples. I would say just try not to be so influenced by trends and what's, trending. A wedding is not a time to go viral. A wedding is truly, if you go viral, great, right? But a wedding for me should be personal and intentional and meaningful. And sometimes people fall into the trap of trying to match what you saw, and sometimes it gets confusing. So I would say just kind of when you get lost in all of that, just bring it back to you, what makes you happy, what keeps you excited. On the other hand, I would also say that to remember that the people that are working on your events are human beings. Treat them with love, treat them with respect, treat them with compassion, you know. And I think somehow, somewhere, it got lost. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
of
think it was
course.
a pandemic. I have amazing clients, so I'm not speaking about my clients, but you hear these horror stories, and I'm like, in the end, we have to remember that we're dealing with human beings. And these human beings have their own lives and have their own issues. Like sometimes I talk to vendors and the things they're going through at that moment is wild and they still showed up with a smile on their
Right.
face. So it's just a little reminder and that, your vendors are here for you and you only. They're not here to
Of course.
sabotage you. They're there for you to make sure you have the best experience and you get the best when you give the best. Like people, when you treat people nicely, they would do anything for you. When you treat them like crap, then they just give you whatever you're contracted for. Right? And we love to give beyond our contract. So anyway,
Yeah, such.
that and yeah, just be good to yourself, have fun and trust the people you hire a wedding planner.
Definitely.
But just have fun. Have the best time.
Perfect. So I will definitely leave Akeshi's websites. You can hear and read all about her and her business. And thank you again so much for taking the time to speak out today.
Thank you for having me. This
See
is fun.
you
Thank you.
probably in Paris or in France someday.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the French Wedding Show. If you want to know more about our guest today, you can go to the show notes and find all the relevant links. Also, have a look at my website, theparisiancelebrant.com, also in the show notes. If you want to start to plan your wedding ceremony or elopement in Paris or anywhere in France. I look forward to hear your ideas. Thank you again so much for listening and see you soon for another episode.